All right. Well, let's see if anyone here that actually called in has a question before we get to those. So do any of you guys have a question? You'll need to unmute yourselves. Okay. Guess not. Lisa, you want to tell us what you got there?
Yes, here's our first one. 1 second. Let's see. If I understand correctly, if this TA is not ratified after regrouping and polling flight attendants as to why the TA did not pass, you would go back to the table and start negotiations again at some time in the future. With that, I understand at that point, management could then back out of previously agreed items. I was surprised to hear this, as were other flight attendants. If this is accurate, how are they legally able to do this? It seems unethical.
Well, it may seem unethical, but it is legal. Just as, I mean, they would take the position on their side that if we ask for more, that's also quote unquote unethical, which we know it's not, right? So they are reacting to the situation that they're in. It's, you know, I don't know what they will do, but I would doubt that they would be willing to honor the TA as it is or to improve it. I think they would. Lisa, look at you in Hawaii.
Guys,
I need to get that. Then I don't have to clean my house. Yeah, they would absolutely come back with less, and that is not illegal. Ethics are not really at issue. So yeah, that is what they could and probably would do.
Okay. The second part of this question. I've seen the flight attendants post on Facebook that management and company lawyers are trying everything to get out of this TA going to a vote. Is this true?
No, they are definitely trying. They have not asked to change anything in the TA itself other than when parts of it go into effect. They obviously would like to mitigate and save cash as much as they can for now, but they're not asking us to make anything worse. Whether or not they want a TA, I think that can, or to have the TA pass can go both ways. I mean, they certainly don't want to go back to the table and put resources into that. At the same time, they would be happy to enjoy continued cost savings since the current contract will cost less than the TA.
Okay, since this question came up, let's talk about the history then. And we're kind of going over some things we've gone over before, but there's new people in the room each day. But let's talk about, Kimberly, can you give a little bit of a background on what happened once we reached, once the MEC voted to put the contract out for a vote, the TA out for a vote, with the company approaching us to say that potentially we didn't have a TA. So maybe just if we could give a
Okay.
on that.
Yeah.
They may bring bits and pieces of that, and the whole thing isn't making sense.
Okay. So the whole story is we came to an agreement at the end of February, and then we, as is our normal practice, go into making sure that, because by the end we're just kind of exchanging bullet points. Okay, we'll do this. We'll take your benefits piece if you'll take our hours of service or whatever. Without necessarily having the written language. So we take a couple weeks to write that language down. And so we did that and we gave it to them. And Dee Dee had initially promised us like a 2-day turnaround on that. It ended up being closer to 2 weeks before they gave it back to us. And they didn't actually give it back to us. They were kind of holding it hostage because we had some disagreement on how the benefits language was written. We thought we'd agreed to a little bit more than is actually in the TA. And so I wrote it that way. They didn't like that. And when we started arguing about it, they said, well, if you are going to, not take this benefits language, then as far as we're concerned, it's a package and the whole TA is off the table and you'll have to go back to square one on that. We ultimately did our research and looked at our notes, and we actually found that they were right on what the language in the benefits was and what had been discussed. Although none of us particularly remembered it. But once we saw that that's what had been discussed, we went to that, which kind of took the issue of the whole contract going away off the table. But they absolutely take that position. So then when we finally agreed to that, then they had to come up with why everything couldn't start until later in the year or even into next year, because they don't have any cash and they got to conserve the cash. And on and on and on. And at some point we were just like, we mitigated some of what they wanted. They wanted the new raises not to start till January. We said, well, we can start them in the latest we can go is September, but that's going to have to be with retro pay from September, et cetera. And ultimately we got the agreement because we were very worried about having to negotiate from scratch or even to go back to the table and have them come back with a much less rich offer, probably less than we even have today.
All right, thank you. Our next question is, I was hired on September 15th, 2019. So my 1-year anniversary is 15 days after the potential pay increase. Will my class be getting a 1% raise rather than the 4.75? I'm confused to how that would work. Would we all lose out on that 4.75% raise completely because we haven't hit our 1-year anniversary? So I think they feel like, I think maybe thinks the 4.75 is on that date, but it's the pay scale going forward. That pay scale is in effect. As soon as you hit your second year, that pay scale pays out at your second year pay.
Correct. So she will get it eventually.
So as soon as you hit that second year, then that pay scale is protected and you will receive it at the time that you receive your increase.
Correct.
Okay. And then we had a couple emailed in as well. Let me get to those. Does anyone in the room have a question while I'm going back and pulling these?
I don't have it on mine because I'm the host, but apparently there's a button somewhere that allows you to raise your hand and show us that you have a question.
Oh, when I was,
I think they said it was like
down by the participants,
yeah,
at the bottom of the list, but I don't know where it is on the iPhone. I was going to give everyone my mobile number for today. So I don't know if you guys have a pen, but my mobile number is 415-601-3265. Again, 415-601-3265 if you have questions. So here's our next one. I have over 200 hours of sick time and I'm unable to use it without repercussions or fear of losing my job with occurrences. Why can't we get this paid out or be allowed to use sick time without the fear of losing our job?
Well, sick leave is never intended to be, I mean, you can use it up to however much you can use, but the intent of it is to keep it in case you have a serious illness, not just to get paid for it, like kind of like car insurance. You may pay for it for years and never use it, and then you'll need it. So 200 hours sounds like a lot, and it would be, she's obviously saved that up over a number of years, but if she's out for 3 months with an injury and illness, that's what it covers. So it's not meant to be used on a go as you earn it basis necessarily. Obviously, if you're sick, you should, but just because you have 200 hours in your bank doesn't mean you get 3 months off without any discipline.
So one thing I would add into that, just because I have been the Leave and Benefits Chair for a number of years here at Horizon, for a long time we had short-term disability or hours accrued in that short-term disability bank. And it wasn't a true insurance policy, but it was a bank of hours that you could have. If you needed to have short-term disability, it would pay out the number of hours that you would have been making. And really that's what the sick time bank is it's that insurance policy for when you have a catastrophic illness and you need to have your pay while you're not working for an extended period of time. In the new TA, there will be a short-term disability policy. And what your sick time will do is bridge the gap between that 40%, or if you voluntarily buy up to 60%, it'll bridge that 40% as well. You can't ever get more than 100% of your pay in any of these situations, but that would be used to bridge that difference between what the insurance policy we will have and what your income would have been. Also, we have a long-term disability policy already in place that's a company benefit that kicks in at 120 days. And that sick time would again be able to be used to get you from that percentage that pays out to 100% of what your income would have been. So the sick time bank although it's there if you get a cold or a flu, or you have some of these issues that you need to be out of work for, it's really meant for those long-term catastrophic illnesses, so that you're able to protect your mortgages, your bills, your insurance payments, those types of things. It's there to make up that income. That hopefully that helps a little bit.
Right. I will say we did have a proposal on the table that was the same that Alaska had, was that when you became eligible for retirement, when you retired, you could cash out up to 25% of it. And the company just completely refused to budge on that.
And it doesn't mean we won't be looking for it in future contract
That
negotiations.
is correct.
Building blocks. We got the short-term policy in for this one. So as Kimberly regularly reminds all of us at the table, it's building blocks. And we had the TA that passed when we were bringing jets on property, and we're building from that now. So there's no, I'm sure there was an expectation that we would go back to what we had before that. But again, it's still building blocks. We still have to build on what we last had.
Well, we've never been able to cash out sick leave though, so.
No, I think there's some perception that we would, in this TA, Kimberly, we would have gone back to all of the benefits we had in the previous TA. I think that's still, a perception that we could just go back to before the concessionary TA and put all those things back into place and add on top of that instead of adding on top of the concessionary TA. So people are still upset about having given up everything to get the jets on property. So
I totally get that, and I don't blame them. I think promises were not kept.
Right. Yeah, I think that's where some of, I don't want to say the emotional components of the TA come into play, but they are. I mean, we've fought really hard, and we gave it everything in that TA, and I think we were looking for a lot more back this time, but that is not the environment. So here's the next question. With our worldwide economic crisis, I can't believe we have any negotiation position. I realize this is what the union has been doing all this time, but it seems more prudent to reveal each issue as it arises to be discussed before it is entered in a TA. Since the union has compiled a TA, will our company be in a position to approve a contract? And what will happen if majority votes the contract down? Will the company be in a position to discuss any changes because we are under federal cares?
Okay, I don't understand the question, the part about bringing up issues one at a time. I'm not sure what she's saying. Do you? Can you?
No, I mean, I think maybe it's just understanding how a contract is put forward. Maybe in this situation, they were thinking that we could just raise one thing and talk about it, and then raise another point and talk about it. But that's not how negotiations works here. We go to the table and we talk about the entire contract. It's a package.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way anywhere. Every airline, every company, aviation or not, it would be, you almost couldn't negotiate each item separately and then put out a vote on that, because it really is a package, and they might be willing to do one thing if we agreed to something and vice versa, which you can't do if you're isolating the items. So the CARES Act has nothing to do with negotiations. The CARES Act is the, I don't know what the acronym is. It's the federal bailout that includes the grants and loans to airlines. What that is intended to do is to keep them operating and to keep service to all destinations, and to keep airline employees on the payroll at least through September. So that's really very separate from the Railway Labor Act, which is what covers our negotiations. So if it's voted down, we do go back to the table. Well, first of all, if it's voted up, they have agreed to it. They cannot back out of it. They obviously made a decision through their corporate, whatever, through Air Group, that they can somehow make this TA work for them. And so if it ratifies, it will go into effect. If it doesn't ratify, it's kind of a scary situation, because they can go back to the table and they can demand less than we even have now, let alone less than what's in the TA. And that process can drag on for years. And I think we've talked about this before, but I think you really have to consider, what is the cost of waiting? How long will it take to earn back the 4.75%, and then in 2 years, the extra 2%? because anything you get, you'd have to get that on top of what you get. And then you can go back. People already say we haven't had a raise since 2018. So now imagine it's 2023 and they haven't had a raise in 5 years. How big, the increase would have to be. And we really don't know what demand and revenue and the economy are going to look like at that point.
Right. So that's all of the submitted questions that came in. Let me see if I have any text messages that have come in today. Oh, we have a question. Hello? V40.
Is her hand up? I can unmute her. Oh, no, she's unmuted. Okay, go ahead, V40 Think. Maybe she has her mute on her phone.
You're unmuted if you have a question.
Okay, she's ready to talk. She's lit up.
Hello? All right. Is there an option to change this to a 2 or a 3-year contract instead of a 4-year so that we could go back to the table more quickly for changes when it becomes more profitable for the company?
I wish there were, but there is not. When the duration of the agreement is part of the overall package, and you can't, we could ask them, but they're going to say no. They want to be locked in and know where they're going to be for the next 2 or 3 years, or 4 years. So no, the answer is no.
Kimberly, I don't have the ability. I'm not a co-host today. Can you?
Yeah, you are a co-host today. I made you a co-host.
It won't let me mute V40. I was thinking maybe we'll just mute again.
All right, she's muted again, but now she's like, yeah. I don't know. Well, hopefully she can figure out what the issue is because everything looks good on our end for her or him.
So maybe I will go to Kirk and Judy and Terry. And if one of you, you can all jump in here, but if one of you has seen any new issues arise on Facebook, could you bring a couple of those questions? Hi, Judy.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Nice to see you with us today. Do you want to bring a couple of the Facebook questions that have been out there for us to talk about?
Oh, you put me on the spot here. No, as you know, there's been a lot of chatter, and I think as you were saying earlier, we gave up so much to get those jets and the promises were broken, and it's become excuse me, an emotional issue in that we don't trust anymore, and this proposed contract is not what we'd hoped for, but contracts never are. But I think you hit it on the head when you said we gave up so much to get the jets, promises were broken, we expected, or at least hoped, we'd at least get back to what we had before the tentative agreement was put into place, and we're not there. Some things have improved, obviously, but some things not so much. So I think that right now in today's situation, people are looking back at that, those of us that were here when we got a great contract, because I know you remember, Lisa, when we got that contract, we had sent it back originally to the company, and that was, from what I understood, the first time in our history that we've done that. So it was quite monumental for us and a huge achievement that we got a great contract based on, what transpired. Not perfect, but great. And so to have it sort of taken away, and we're not, shall I say, as close to that level with this new contract, I think that's part of the sting for those of us that remember it all. So
let me actually talk to before COVID-19 hit. And Kimberly, you can interrupt me if I start to say something I'm, can't say. Just tell me I have to
I'll just mute you, Missy. Yeah.
So first of all, Ed was a negotiation committee chair up until December of this year. And so he worked on the bulk of this with the negotiation committee. Then I came on board towards the end in January for really the last month, but I was at the table learning and trying to get some background. And when we got to the end of this TA originally, I think our conversations in these roadshows would have been much different. I think that we knew as a committee that we had pushed the company as far as they were going to go, and that there were no more areas that we were going to see any improvements from the company side. And our communications, if we had hit roadshows at that point in time, let's just say everything finished mid-January, off we go to do our roadshows, I think we would have been communicating that although we wouldn't have gotten anything more by negotiating any longer, that this contract might not have been what all of you were looking for, that it might not have met the needs of our flight attendants in the environment in January where we had been for the last several years. We're growing, we have more flight attendants, we're finally getting some longer, thinner routes back, a few here and there, but things were looking really good for us, and profit margins were fantastic on the company side. In fact, one of the last rounds of negotiations we were in, they had done their earnings release, and we told them, this isn't going to pass. This TA is not going to pass. We're telling you this, it will not pass. And I think we would have been out in the road shows talking with everybody about, this isn't the contract that you have wanted all of these years that we've been waiting to go back to negotiations. That said, unfortunately, and truly unfortunately for us, and I mean this, unfortunately for us, COVID hit and it changed the entire DNA of where we are right now. I mean, it took everything that we could have done with a no vote, Judy, and decimated it.
I know. Well,
I'm
and that's
sorry,
the thing is that I just posted on Facebook the article about Southwest, just as an example, who is in a nutshell, they're basically saying their intent is not to downsize, but in order to keep people employed and keep going, they are asking for concessions from their flight crew, from all their employees. Okay. And I think that's what.
Let me interrupt you here, because I know you, and we'll keep talking. This is great. But first thing I want to say, and then I will answer that question. But first thing I want to say is, when we compare ourselves to Southwest in a different way, we have to be really careful because we are a regional. So if you were saying to me, hey, Lisa, Southwest gives, they let people buy back their sick time. They can buy back 200 hours when they leave. I would say, you know what? That's a mainline, and I'm sorry, we may never see that in the regional industry, but we'll fight and we'll see what we can get. That would be
and I think that's where a lot of not confusion, but it's understandable that we're part of AAG, and therefore, having it rammed down our throat. I am Alaska. Well, we are, but we're not. We are a regional, and to compare ourselves to Alaska and Delta and United does a disservice to us, because we aren't them.
Can I jump in here? Yeah. So I don't want to get into the regional mainline divide, because it's not really the issue here. If Southwest says they're not taking concessions, that's because they have a closed contract. They don't have to. We are in negotiations. If we ratify this agreement, then we're in a closed contract and we don't have to take concessions unless we decide that for whatever reason we need it to save the company. Southwest Union does not feel that way at this time. Who knows where they may be in a year.
Right.
If this TA does not ratify, we are in a position where we have to continue negotiating. So to me, and I hate to say this because I'm not happy with this contract either, and it's going to have my name on it, and I know, whatever. I'm just really scared that if we don't ratify it and protect ourselves from having to talk about concessions, that we are going to be talking about them and that we're not going to reach a new agreement.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, is that when you look at what the other airlines, whether it's mainline or not, what is going on in their own backyard, and to be sitting here as a regional going, okay, these are very unusual times, and as much as it still stings from the history and the broken promises, the reality of the environment today, regardless, I think, of whether you're regional or mainline, is if we vote no and we go back to the table, we do run the risk of them taking away a lot. So yes, we would be protected if we say yes, but it's kind of like a crapshoot as well, just like any negotiation, is that if we say no on the hope of getting more, you know, who knows? Because honestly, when the company says there's no money, again, it goes to their history. They've lied to us before, or been, not lied, I don't want to say lie. They've withheld information, critical information, like the purchase of Virgin before, which would have changed, I think, how that vote would have gone had we had all the facts. So I guess we're mistrusting of the company in that where they are financially, that, you know, could we squeeze a little more out of them? They're saying no, but that's where I'm saying some people are on the fence on this because, you know, I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm going to say that across Air Group, anyone, any management at managing director or above has been forced to take a 20% pay cut right off the bat. Right. Anyone director and above, which includes Dee Dee, Rachel's a managing director, so she says a 20% pay cut. But Dee Dee's level is taking a 10% pay cut and working they're working 9 days in 2 weeks instead of 10. So it's not like this is something they're aiming at us.
No.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's where, again, when you have all the different seniorities from first year to, you know, 30-year flight attendant, that experience and having been around for a couple of contracts does weigh into it because we know a little bit more and can understand it a little bit more. It's still a somewhat confusing process into how it's all done for those that don't or aren't involved in some discussions. But I think it's still for me, I'm 50-50. I mean, yeah, I want to secure something that's better than what we've got. What's being proposed is nowhere near what we'd hoped for. But no one counted on the virus. I think if the virus hadn't have happened, this would be a unanimous no.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe not unanimous, but it would have
pretty close.
I think it would have gone down.
Yeah. So that's why the 4-year, it's hard to swallow. I think the company has the potential because Horizon is known to bounce back. We always give more. Every single time the company asks us to do something, we do it, and we have the awards to prove it. And they're asking us to take a lesser than what we value ourselves at contract. But again, it's unprecedented times. So 4 years is a little hard to swallow. 3 would be easier. 2 would be delightful. But I think the company will make it back faster than the main lines because we are a smaller company in that respect. And I think that, they did some smart things at Alaska for finance and stuff. But again, the issue is it's not the contract we want. It's not the contract we hope for. Do we suck it up for 4 years because of the times? Or do we risk saying no and potentially losing more? Because I don't know that we're going to gain much going back to the table.
So Judy, I do want to say that even though we felt like the TA might not have been everything people were looking for, we still do believe that this is, I'm going to see if someone can mute themselves because we're getting.
Sorry, that's my landline.
Oh, okay. There are still pay increases and per diem increases and parts to the contract that have been improved.
Absolutely.
There are definitely improvements. And it would have been a different roadshow, but we do strongly as a negotiations committee and as an MEC, we strongly believe that this is a very solid TA. It will mean that we do not have to take concessions going forward. And it will mean that nothing is eroded from what we have in the TA currently. So today's economic situation right now, currently, we feel very strongly that this is an important step for us to secure this for our future. I think a 2-year contract, I will say originally our ask was a 3-year contract.
Right.
A 2-year contract
And
right now
and they wanted 5 years.
that a 2-year would scare me today. Because you have to have some history of the profitability behind you. You can't just have recovered a little, have done a little bit of recovery. I mean, there's loans that are going to be out there now. There's a lot of things that we want to get through to the other side of before we start to negotiate again. And so a 2-year would probably scare me right now. A 3-year might have even scared me right now, but that's what we were hoping for. They wanted a 5-year, as Kimberly just mentioned, and that was, we were adamantly no. It's not
never do 5 years.
It will never happen with what you've offered. Now, if they'd given us everything that we wanted in the survey, if we'd opened on everything we wanted and they said absolutely yes,
then of course, quick before they get sane again.
We might have locked that one in for 5 years.
So Lisa, when you talk about the history, the medical experts are saying, this virus another virus is going to come with, and again, we're all on a learning curve with this because it's never been hit so badly in our industry. Moving forward, is there something that can be done in a side letter to protect us? Because, again, allowing for that learning curve. So many people have been left out or don't know what's going on as far as, we don't make a lot of money. That's the reality. And we don't do this job for the money. But
Judy, what do you want locked in?
I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean in a side letter.
Something about being protected or being compensated, whether through the because we can't always count on the government to come through for us with this company leave. Originally it was a company leave without pay. As time has gone on, the regulations or the company policies changed. The medical coverage, first it wasn't covered, then it was. Just to have something more definitive instead of floundering.
Well,
does that make sense?
So we have the protections now, and we have a past practice that is, we have a current practice, which will tomorrow become a past practice. So if we hit another COVID-19 situation, I think we would look at what we had done in the past and try to put those same protective measures in place. But when you're talking about a company that is losing, I don't know, what'd they say, $500 million a day, I think, or they're spending $500 million a day with no income.
No, I think it's like 14 million. I don't think it's that much.
I don't know. I mean, you're not going to see paid leaves necessarily because they're trying to conserve cash to keep the business running. But to have protections to take the leave and to qualify for unemployment and to have your benefits paid, I think those are things that we would see again because we've been able to negotiate them through this process. We would at least be talking about what the best measures are. I will say that as much as we had to not fight to get them, but it took us days and weeks to be able to see all of the things that we needed. I mean, the first thing we solved for was the COVID leaves. We had to solve for that immediately. And then, okay, now the COVID voluntary leave, now let's offer some pay with it. Let's switch that. So it's a step-by-step process. And yes, it does take some time the first time something happens. I mean, this is uncharted territory.
Absolutely.
But stepping stones would be in place in the future for us to go back, and whoever was, the MECP and the LECPs then would have these tools to be able to pull up and say, well, here's what we've done in the past, and we'd like to put these things in play and tweak this a little bit or change this a little bit. So I don't think that we would be starting from scratch and taking so long to ramp up next time. But luckily we have a fantastic relationship with the Alaska MEC, and we were able to work together. They would send us some things they were doing. We would send them some language on something that we thought of. And we had a lot of people all working on this at the same time this time. So I think it would it would play out hopefully the same way. I can't promise that because they are side letters, but I would hope it would play out the same way, that we would have those protections there.
It just added to everybody's stress level in dealing with this, and then having the company not sort of, respond as quickly as we would have liked. But you're right, it is a first time thing, and going forward, hopefully they've learned to be better prepared for next time, because there will be a next time.
I also want to say that one of the things that hindered us on our side in getting some of these things into play more quickly is we don't have a labor person on our management side right now. So when we put something together and send it, typically we would be sending that to the Michelle person. Michelle would be vetting that out and then getting approval. We don't have anyone in that position, and it is hindering us some, because when we send something straight over, there's this group effort that has to go on now, because there isn't that one person with that knowledge, that intellectual knowledge, to be able to say, here's what they're doing in this union and this union, and putting it all together and getting back to us more quickly. So that has been a little bit of a time sink for us. And we've had to have this I personally have had to have the same conversation kind of over and over again and say, look, talk to the person over here. You'll see this is normal for right now. It's not normal, but normal for right now. We're not asking for, $1 million. We're just asking to do the right thing right now. And they have done those each step of the way. It's just taken a little bit longer on our side because we don't have that same structure any longer. I don't know if they're going to bring that person on board into that position. It's actually a good question. I should follow up with Joe Sprague and find out. But we kind of lost that. So that has been a bit of a stumbling block along the way in this situation. So that was a really long answer for that.
No, but it's true, because part of the problem is we don't know who to go to for specific things that we need. As in flight, we tend to go to Dee Dee, but the poor woman was also inundated with, God knows how many emails and phone calls. And so then what? I think that's the thing, is we were all feeling a little lost. Who do we go to for what we need to get something in a timely fashion? Like the letters for unemployment, is that from Dee Dee? Is that from somebody else? And I think that added to part of the confusion and frustration. But as we've just said, it's a learning curve, and hopefully the next time we'll know right out of the gate who's the contact person for these things that are needed quickly.
And to be honest, that letter, I want to be clear, that letter wasn't something that was needed for it may help. I can't even say it will help.
It depends on the state you're in.
But the leave is very clear what the leave is. If you're putting in the right description of the leave, the letter is not a necessary component. But it was nice that they did provide it at a certain point in time. But if people have questions about that, and make sure you're reaching out to your local presidents, and they can help you with those questions as well. So let's talk. We have some more people who've joined us. Does anyone have any more questions, new questions? Allison, I see you're on here with us. Do you have a question? No, Allison. Terry, have you seen anything on Facebook we should know?
Can they unmute themselves, or do I have to do that?
I think you probably have to. And there's Terry. Hello, Terry.
Oh, okay.
I haven't really noticed any more questions.
Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of getting repetitive at this point, so, which is good. That means that people are getting the answers to most of their questions. All right. Anybody else have anything?
There must be more stuff on Facebook that you guys are wondering. I know that I saw something. I saw a pilot made a recommendation that we should vote no. I think Kimberly.
Sorry, that just makes my brain hurt.
That she's on camera. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's right.
You get to see Kimberly when she looks at me across the table sometimes. So what I would say, we do obviously have a really good relationship with our pilots. And they negotiated a really great contract for themselves. I'm sure they have, issues that they have in their contract that they're not happy with, but they feel probably like they got a pretty good contract in certain areas. And they always feel very passionately for us. They want us to have the best. They really do. And them saying that we should just vote no, they haven't read the whole contract. They haven't been at these sessions, and they're supporting us. I would look at that as just a really big round of support in our corner. And just, they want us to have more. They want us to be treated better and get more things and have the same provisions that they have or that Alaska has. Everybody does. So I would just take that and say thank you and make the best decision for yourself in the TA. Take a step back, read everything, see what we're really getting right now compared to not having those provisions and potentially losing them. And I'm not saying that as a fear tactic at all. I hope people understand I'm not trying to scare anybody. Kimberly is not trying to scare anyone. We're just trying to be as realistic as possible with how we answer these questions for you guys. It truly does not come from a place of fear. It comes from a place of, we have no way to assure any of you that we would be able to get more and not lose what is in here if we went back and renegotiated this.
And I just want to add, I don't actually care what some random pilot says about a contract he or she will never work under. I don't know who this person is. I can tell you that they don't care what your feelings are on their contract, right? So you guys are adults. You guys are intelligent. Pilots are not your boss, and God knows they're not God. So you do what's best for you and don't worry about what pilots say. Sorry, that's my speech. Okay, Kirk, you want to say something?
Sure.
Well,
so on that, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So on that, you mentioned the pilot on Facebook saying vote no. There's been a lot of chatter this last 24 hours that management is telling flight attendants to vote no, and that was confirmed through an officer, through someone that's confirmed it and posted that on Facebook. I don't know any officer that confirmed that, but are you wanting to speak on that one, or
company officer or AFA officer?
They said an AFA officer confirmed that management is encouraging a no vote on this TA.
Do you know who that officer is?
No, we've all checked with each other and we don't know what's going on with that one. So
well, people never lie on Facebook, so that's weird.
Anyway, I just thought I'd bring that one up. There's one other question that came up as well, but
okay. Well, as far as I know, management is not urging a no vote, but don't know.
Yeah, they've been pretty quiet.
We told them to be quiet and stay out of it. So.
Yeah, there was that comment that said, why haven't they come out and said something? They normally always say something. Kimberly, does management normally say something?
No.
They do. They did during this.
We tell them to shut up, because if Rachel Mattielli thinks her opinion is going to influence anyone positively, she's wrong.
Oh, we're getting really candid here today.
I'm feeling feisty, man. I don't know.
Kimberly needs another Diet Coke.
All right, Kirk, did you have something else?
Yeah, there's one other thing. So on AV days, this came up this morning. If I get assigned in the TA, if I get assigned an AV day, my original trip started at 11:30 a.m. and now they want to put me on a trip that starts at 5 a.m. Can they change my AV day to a report time that's much earlier than I originally had? And I was going to look that up myself, but I thought I would throw that question up here because there's a lot of questions out there on AV days.
I'm going to say, unfortunately, yes, because we don't have the footprint language in the AV section, only in the rescheduling section.
I thought there was a COVID letter, a letter of agreement that came out saying that if they did reschedule our trip, they couldn't do it within so many hours of the original start time.
Okay, that's rescheduling though, right? So, and it's not a COVID letter, it's in the TA that starting with the TA, they would not be able to have you report earlier than you're currently scheduled to report or to release more than 2 hours after your original release time.
Okay, so that is not something current with COVID. It was something that would be in the TA or in the TA.
It's in the TA. It's not
Okay.
in your current contract. If they're doing it, that's great, but they're not required to right now.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Since you're unmuted, do you have any other questions? We just see you as Idaho Sunflower. So
No, I don't really have questions. I was a solid no when I read through the TA the first time, and after listening to the Q&As, I have changed my mind, but I don't know. I just would encourage everybody to have everybody at least listen to the webinars and see what's going on before they make up their mind.
I know, I have to say, I personally feel really badly that I can't be out there in a room with you guys and really all of us together talking about these things. I think this is a really great venue that we have to be able to get the information out. But I do want to say that I feel terribly that we can't be out there with you one-on-one talking about these things. As we get closer, we have these sessions every day. We're posting them for everyone to go back and review. And I would just say, if you have questions outside of, coming into this room and asking them with us or texting or emailing myself, I remain 100% available to you guys to just talk about the history and my thoughts. I know Kirk and Joelle are there for you. Reach out to them. I think the biggest thing is I want everyone to feel like they were able to ask whatever questions they had, and they have an honest answer from Kimberly, from myself, from the negotiations committee. I mean, whatever it is that you need to know the honest background, I want everyone to have that. And whatever avenue we have to take to get that information to whomever that is, I want us to do that. I don't want to stop until everyone has that.
Okay, Joelle, you want to say something here?
Joelle has a hand up.
I do have my hand up. I want to speak.
Well, that's a first.
I actually, just listening to Idaho Sunflower there, I guess from a learning perspective, when she has said that she's changed her vote, I guess I'm just wondering what is it from these sessions that I guess changed your mind?
It was listening to the explanation of, I don't know, just getting more clarification on certain points, like the limited increase in year number 2 as far as wages go. And I can't think of examples off the top of my head, but I just got more clarification, and it put things into better perspective for me.
So one,
well, that,
sorry,
I just was saying that.
Go ahead.
These sessions are designed for that. And I put something on Facebook yesterday because it was frustrating to hear. Now, there are people that are passionate about this. Of course, I mean, this is our livelihood. That is understood. I think my frustration came yesterday when I posted was, please just get some background information, because, there's so many questions about, why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? And if you come to these sessions, you'll hear we addressed every possible issue that, our fellow flight attendants told us was important to them. And then, we ran into roadblocks with management. So I just feel really passionate about getting, the people, whether you're a yes or no, get on here and have an understanding of what it was like in there.
Right.
I think that's part of the problem, is that a lot of people don't understand the process. And they sometimes, I think, forget the union is made up of flight attendants.
Right.
You guys are fighting tooth and nail for us, but also for yourselves. And, you're not trying to give anything away to appease the company. But I still get a little tired of this us and them within the union, which is self-destructive, because they think, well, what's the union doing for us? Well, what the hell are you doing for the union? Where are you? Why aren't you on this phone call? Why aren't you wearing your red pin? Why aren't you supporting your union? So that's where it's also a little frustrating, because you guys work hard at what you're doing to, help us, and they're shitting all over you.
Well, I mean, yes, but part of the beauty of a union is there's free speech. People can have their own opinions, and we don't expect everyone to fall in line.
Yes.
My only expectation or hope is that people make a decision based on facts, not emotion, frankly.
Right. I think that's the problem is right now we're all so emotional because of the past and because of this virus
Oh,
that,
absolutely. Nobody's
know,
normal.
that's where, treading softly with those that are feeling the emotion is, it's not hard to do, but understanding why they're feeling the way they are and why they're so adamant about saying no, but recognizing it's just, sadly, it's just the times. If the virus wasn't here, we'd be doing something different, hopefully. But it is what it is. And we just want what's best.
Sorry. And
No,
I
go ahead.
agree with you, Judy. And you were talking earlier about the company not keeping their word with the previous contract, which I agree with. But I think with what has been negotiated so far, it's the best for all the work groups. I mean, you've got your reserves that are getting benefit. You're getting your senior flight attendants getting benefits. Work schedules, as far as number of legs a day and all that are better. The pay is better, per diem, the whole 9 yards. And if we don't vote for this, I think we're really shooting ourselves in the foot because we're going to have no leverage later on. There's no security for us.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Pam. I think that's exactly right.
Yeah, best to the best for now.
Yeah.
So a couple of things I want to, while some people think about questions that they may have, a couple of things I want to cover off on that I think are important with voting is your vote is final this time. This is the first time since the Constitution and bylaws was amended that your vote will be final when you make it. So you used to be able to change your vote along the way. So it's really important if you're talking to anyone about the TA, if you have the opportunity to remind them of that or just to educate them of that one thing, that would be great. You get one opportunity to vote, so it needs to be a firm decision when you do that. Also, if you've not received your ballot in the mail by, Tuesday, Wednesday-ish, I know people have already received it in some places, make sure that you're calling the membership 800 number so that you can get a new code. And you can get that code. You'll have to leave a voice message for membership because they are working remotely right now because of COVID-19, but they are checking that mailbox very regularly. They realize that we are in the process of a vote right now. So they are checking it very regularly and they will reach out to you via phone or email. So make sure you're checking your mobile phone, check your email, and communicate with your LECPs or with Amy Baird if you're not hearing back to get that code. There was one other thing I was going to cover off from if you are past due on your dues, make sure that you're reaching out to Amy Baird as well to get either on a promissory note or get proof of your dues having been taken out of your pay so that you are a member in good standing before that last day. Don't wait till the last day, please, because we have a very tight timeline on the last day. So if you know that now, if you could start working with us, reach out to any of your officers and we'll help you get to the right place. There is a question that's coming in that is, when will we get the results of the TA vote, Kimberly?
It closes at noon Pacific on the 30th, so we should have the results within an hour, probably.
All right.
I mean, that's an average based on how long, they have to go through and make sure everyone was actually voted, was actually eligible and so forth, but it doesn't normally take very long.
And the TA is not being mailed to everyone. I know I've seen a couple of posts about that. It was not originally even intended to be mailed out. So it's online on our website. If you need a copy of it, we can email it to you. I will be putting a couple of copies into the crew rooms as a crew room copy. You're welcome to take it and make a copy for yourself. Or if you have, if you just have to have a copy, reach out to me and I can try and co-mail you one. But with everything being limited to being able to get to printers and get to you guys, it really is making it very difficult to get TAs in hard copy out to you. So if you do want one, reach out to me or Joelle or Kirk and we can figure out something. But we will be I have some ready to go into the crew rooms as a crew room copy as well. All right.
All right, so Joanne just joined. I don't know if she has any questions.
Hi, Joanne. Welcome. You've been joining us almost every day. You and Terry, I don't know. I'm just really thrilled that you guys have been on here every day with us.
Hey, Megan, Megan has been here every day too.
Oh, hi, Megan. Wonderful dedication to finding out stuff. I'm really
Actually,
I'm really
a lot of these people have been here. Yeah.
I see Louise. I'm finally getting to see who's in here. For some reason, I wasn't able to see earlier.
You gotta go to like gallery view and then you can see everybody.
We're just going to be experts on Zoom by the end of all of this, I'm telling you. All right, so if anyone has seen, I really like talking about some of these Facebook issues, and I want to make sure that everyone understands, even though as an MEC, we are supporting a yes vote, that we hear what you're saying when you're talking about strongly feeling about a no, and we want to talk to everybody. We don't want to limit it to just one-sided conversations. We want everything in here. We just want to talk about everything that you guys want to talk about, truly.
All right, Angie has a question.
Yay.
Go ahead, Angie.
Hello?
Yeah, hi, Angie.
Hi there. Thank you guys so much for what you're doing. This is my first tune-in of the Q&A. I listened to your first Zoom that you put out last week, and it was very helpful and informative as well, because reading through the TA originally, I was kind of like, and that, like in writing, I think it's kind of like it needs to be spelled out a little bit more with the explanations, and you guys did a really good job, so I'm a yes. But I have a question that I was concerned about was, whenever we pass this, is there something that we can put in the new contract that we have to be able to negotiate and come to an agreement in a certain time period? Because we're so far along after our last one, we're kind of like in that limbo period where it kind of went so far without us having anything ratified for a new one. Is there something that we can protect ourselves of not having the time lapse go through again once the new contract is over or coming up to be ended?
Do you mean when we're negotiating the next contract?
Correct. So
okay.
Sorry, that was a long-winded question, but is there something that could protect us from not having it lag on for so long? I mean, it takes a while to negotiate, and I realize that you guys started a very long time ago, but then it seemed like it was like put off for some reason for this and delayed for this, and now we're sitting here like a long time after our last one expired, kind of.
Well, that's actually normal. The Railway Labor Act, unlike other industries, and so airlines fall under Railway Labor Act for unknown reasons. It's actually set up that way in order to avoid constant strikes and what they call disruptions to interstate commerce. So we put in there an early reopener that negotiations will start 6 months prior to the amendable date, and that's about as far as we can get, because even if we were to put in there, we have had at other contracts, negotiations start on this day. If there's not an agreement by however much later, we go to mediation and so forth. But the bottom line is, even when you go to mediation, the government, who are the mediators, cannot force anyone to come to an agreement. So there's not really a way to do that under the law that we operate under.
Okay, that answers that.
Sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of it's in the company's favor, though, in my mind, of us not coming to a new contract to help us, like all these things that we're fighting for. I kind of feel like it's in their favor that this lags on for so long.
Somewhat, yeah. I mean, traditionally, they have not been super fast about it. Horizon, and it may not seem that way to you guys, is actually one of our historically quickest contracts to negotiate, and it only has been taking, only 12 to 18 months, but we have some that have been going on for over 3 years.
Okay.
So.
Okay. It's all new to me, but I really do thank you guys for all of this. I know you guys work really hard on it and try to get everybody on board. But it's just like, presidential elections, know your stuff before you go to the tolls. And vote with your head, not your heart, like you keep saying. And that's just so true with just everything, especially when it affects us for the next 4 years. So
Right.
thank you guys.
Thank you, Angie. Anyone else?
Lisa, just to mention, it would behoove everybody to listen to the company webinar. Is that tomorrow, I think? Sorry, I'm not in front of my computer.
I think it's the 23rd.
23rd, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would also, before actually deciding, or for people who want more information, I think it would be of value to encourage our coworkers that we see or talk to watch that, just to see what's being said. It's just that much more information being put out there, because it isn't just directed at us in flight, it's directed at the entire company. So
Right. Well, let's see if anything has come in by email. 1 second. I have no new emails. I'm trying to think if there was anything. Kirk, Joelle, do you guys remember anything that we haven't touched on that's been on Facebook in the last 12 hours, 24 hours? Actually, we didn't do a Q&A yesterday, so 24 to 48 hours.
What was that again?
Can you think of any other things that have been out there on Facebook that we should talk about that are myths or misnomers, or anything we should talk about?
No, I think we should recognize, and we do recognize that, this is a very emotional time for people right now. So it's, there's the emotion of the commit to compete contract. There's the emotion of what's going on with this COVID-19 in our airline industry. So, it is appreciated and recognized. There's the emotion of voting on this TA. So, it's just, there's a lot of emotions out there right now. And,
yep.
And I think we need to respect each other and respect what's going on in our environment at the moment. So where each individual person is coming from.
And I will say, if just in case people are on Facebook, if you have a question for me specifically, or for the committee, to email us or text us or call us versus posting it onto Facebook, because unfortunately it's not a venue that I'm on, so I don't see them. And I've gone a couple times and answered a couple little ones, but I'm just not regularly on Facebook, nor do I plan that I will be, but I want you guys to have answers. And I know that that's a big venue for everybody. So just nudge me in another format and I will make sure I'm trying to get an answer out.
Okay, looks like Joanna has a question. Joanna, you need to, yeah.
I did, I just unmuted. Okay. I'm not going to show you my face today because I look like death wormed over, but I would like to, I've been making a list. First of all, I'm a yes. And I've been, oh boy, it is an emotional issue. I've been here since before we had a union on property and helped bring the union on property many years ago, and have been part of, the fight always, behind the scenes. I've never been a negotiator or anything like that, but it takes a very long time to negotiate each one of these contracts. And the first part of my question is, do you happen to know how many contracts Alaska Airlines has negotiated in their history?
Well, they've had a contract for probably 70 years.
Right.
I don't know the exact number, but if you take an average of 4 years, that's like almost 18 contracts. So,
okay.
I mean, don't hold me to that, but that would be a guess.
No, that's good enough. That's good enough for this. So, how many have we negotiated? I've forgotten the count by now.
Well, I think your first one was like 30 years ago, maybe 1987 or 8, somewhere in there. So probably 7, maybe. I don't know off the top of my head. Sorry.
So I just would like to remind people that that's just to speak to the people that, say Alaska has done this and they've fought for this in their contract or whatever. Each time they fought for a contract at Alaska, they've made gains. They've been doing it twice as long plus as we have. And we have many gains in this contract, not as many as I would like to have, of course, but we're not in a position to bargain, in my opinion. So that was the first thing I would like. That's not really a question. That's just, I guess, I'm just curious how long Alaska has been doing it. But here's what I would like to ask you. I was going to post this on Facebook, and I would like to go over the big things that we risk should we vote no, such as the attendance policy, the insurance premiums, the hotels, that we have the AV line guarantee, quote unquote.
Please don't use that term, but that is what it is, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to call it, but the AV protection that gives us, some protection for pay.
Right.
And so if we do not close this contract up and we vote no, and we have now an open contract, can we kind of just summarize the things that we risk by that no vote?
Well, yeah, I mean, all those things that you said, plus the economics of the per diem and the pay increases and the drug testing pay, which I know doesn't come up that often, the holiday pay. So yeah, there's a number of things, and that's up to people to make that decision for themselves.
I understand, but if we could just summarize each one of these things that I just mentioned right now, here is what I was asking, if that's possible to, for the people that have not listened to the webinar, that don't take the time to do that and have not, I've listened to both of them, and I'm very aware of all of the things that we risk by a no vote. And I just wonder if there's an easy way to summarize that here.
It's a long presentation to summarize. Is that what I had to step away to use the restroom really quick? Sorry about that, Joanne.
That's okay. I worry about the people that won't take the time to listen to the webinars, that are listening to their friends and listening to the Facebook posts. And I would like to somehow find a way to summarize the things that we risk. And I listed some of the things, Lisa. The attendance policy, the insurance premiums could go up, the hotels that they could choose if we don't lock in standards, the lack of the AD language.
Yeah, the summary of changes, Joanne. So basically it would be the opposite of everything in the summary of changes. And that is on our website. And it's a really quick, succinct 2-pager, Kimberly. Did it work out to be?
It's like 6 pages.
Oh,
but it has the good and the bad. So if she's just looking at positives, then it would have other things in it as well.
But yeah, that's a really good document that's on our website that captures really succinctly each of the things that are in here. So that might be a really good resource. I could put a couple hard copies of that into the crew rooms as well, if you think that would help. And then these Q&A sessions are also going to be on the website. I think they are, but we have a YouTube channel, and each of the Q&As are going to be on there as well. So they don't necessarily have to listen to the whole thing, but I might be able to just put a couple tips up there that says, fast forward through the parts, and here's a Q&A that's about this, or here's a Q&A that's more about that, potentially. Kirk, Joelle, do you have any ideas on how to get something else out there?
someone can post it on Facebook.
Unfortunately, in these
Well, that's what she's saying. Yeah.
self-isolated
I
times.
mean the bullet points, that the summary of changes.
Joanne, I completely hear what you're saying, that there are people that aren't going to get touched by some of these avenues that we have here. I hear you. I think that the best we can do is continue to do these each day. And if I were to get a group of members that wanted to do an evening one, I'm open to just taking one and doing an evening. I'm really open. If there are any ideas on how else to get this information out there, I am 100% open to it. And on our HZN Facebook page, we've got a ton of links to the videos and the other documents. So let me think on this one and see if there's a way, that I can come up with something else that's short and succinct. But right now, short of doing yet another presentation another way, they would still be listening to something. I think it would still be through this venue.
Honestly, Lisa, I think this has been the best. I mean, the crew sits with the way our industry is. I mean, and where people live. I mean, the access that this opportunity has given us, the Zoom environment, I just don't know of a better way, except, we can send an email out, an e-blast perhaps, and say, hey, in case you're not on Facebook, in case you missed it, there's live, Q&As, and there's recorded information. So other than that, I mean, this has been actually really great.
Well, good. I'm glad. But I'm open, as people have more ideas and, other ways that we can try and reach our members. This is a totally different world right now. So I am entirely open to whatever that may be and getting as much information out there as possible. And then there's also, there is some accountability out there too. You have to, we do have all these tools. We do have all these recordings. We do have all this material on our website. So I do have some expectation that people will use the tools. And if one of them isn't working, reach out to us. So it's, kind of a delicate balance there. But Joanne, I do appreciate, we all appreciate how passionate you are about this and how dedicated you are and how thorough you've been in all of this. All of you. I mean, everyone has been doing that. The fact that you're on these calls once or every single one of them means that you care enough about your working conditions to be here with us. A yes vote, a no vote, you are putting in the effort and you are spending the time to get as much information as you can. So I just appreciate so much everyone being on these. Should we see if we have any questions from anyone else who's joined us? Let me see if I have anything in text. Let's see if I have anything in email. I did get a question on the AFA pin that was in boxes. That was Black History Month. You sent me I was sent a picture of a pin that was recently out there, and just FYI, that was Black History Month if that person's on the call with us. And Amy says there are no new questions through the website. So we have gone over all of them. So shy of going over more Facebook stuff. Things get crazy again tomorrow in what my world is. So I will do some looking tonight on the Facebook pages and our website. I'll talk with Kevin this evening and make sure that everything's looking really succinct out there, that all of the links are working and all of the information is on all venues. So I'm committed to doing that this afternoon and this evening so that everything going into next week is up. We are doing a question of the day. That is only going to be posted on our website. I am not moving that into the Facebook page that we have. And I'll just tell everyone here, the comments, I'm committed to answering comments on that page because that is our official page. And I unfortunately do not have time to answer innuendos or rumor. I mean, it's a lot to manage. So I'm not going to post the question of the day anymore, or I'm going to take off comments, one or the other. I need to talk with Kirk and Joelle and see how they feel about that and get everyone's everyone's thoughts from an MEC before I make a final decision. But the questions of the day that we do every day will be on our website, and you guys can capture them and take them and put them wherever you'd like to, but they will stay on the website, which is the afahorizon.org. And I'm just bringing it up because we happen to be here and talking about things, and I wanted people to know that those are coming out. So they're really good information as well. So it's usually the hot topic that we put in there. We have one on SAP. We have one on
Attendance policy.
Attendance policy. We have one on the pay scale. So yeah, they're usually our hot topics.
Yeah, the next one that's coming out, I guess it would be today or maybe tomorrow, will be on what happens if we vote no. So
that's today. So you have another.
Hey, there you go, guys. Y'all already know. You don't have to read it again.
So. Oh, we have a hand. Joanne, yes. Oh, let me unmute Joanne. Hang on.
You had it for a sec. There you go. Go ahead, Joanne.
Hi, me again.
Hi.
So last vote, we had the social media thing, you know, also, and a lot of people started posting, you know, their yes or their no as their Facebook profile picture. And I want to do that already, but I don't want to, I don't want to start something emotional out there and having people just going, you know, yes or no without, you know, without having gotten all the information. I was thinking that as soon as I vote tomorrow, it's tomorrow, right?
Well, you
starting
vote
tomorrow
all the way through the 30th at noon.
Right. I mean, it starts tomorrow. I thought as soon as I vote tomorrow that I would post my yes as my Facebook profile picture, and I just wonder what your opinions are.
I think I'm going to refrain from saying that people should post a yes or a no. I mean, voting is a very personal
yes.
personal decision. And as much as we want to be here to educate people, and we are advising our membership of what our stance is as an MEC on the vote, I will not be putting anything on my Facebook as a yes or a no. I just don't feel like that's an appropriate position for me. And I don't feel like I can counsel a member on what to do in that type of a setting. So I would have to defer to your local presidents to see if they have an opinion. But for me, Joanne, I'm sorry. I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending that people take this fight up in Facebook. It's personal, and I don't want to see things go sideways in social media. I think presenting your support, and all of us presenting our support as much as we can by reaching out to members and saying, hey, private message me, or I'm available to talk, or watch this presentation, or, you know, there's a number of ways to do it without my personally recommending what you do is on your Facebook page. I'm sorry. Joelle has her hand up. Maybe she has some more thoughts.
I think personally just encouraging the vote itself by saying, hey, I voted, and, you know, encourage people to educate themselves before making the vote, since it can't be changed.
I think that's a good idea.
I agree with Lisa. By, you know, we're all, like you said, Joanne, very emotional about it. And I think just encouraging the vote itself would be great.
Yeah,
vote is important. The more people who vote, the more we have a voice. I mean, truly, voting is important. Voting is very, very important to show strength and unity and to show our numbers. So yes, getting the word out to vote is very important.
And historically, people have that have done that. It's turned some people the other way. Like when they see the yeses and the nos on there on their Facebook page, and it turns some people off, and they may react differently than you or hope the outcome would be. So, I mean, myself, I would just discourage putting yes or no on your Facebook wall at this time.
All right. Any other questions?
Okay. Well, should we end this thing?
Well, let me check my phone one last time. If I missed somebody, I don't think I did, but just make sure. Nope. And nope. I think that's everything. Oh,
Joelle has going to say something. Go ahead, Joelle.
I'm full of it today.
Wow.
I would just encourage everybody who's on here. You know, we all have our smaller groups and coworkers and work family that if you could just reach out and encourage them to come on here if they have questions, just kind of word of mouth, phone game type thing, just to get on and just spread the word that way.
And I don't necessarily want to do, 5 sessions of this a day, and Kimberly won't.
Wait a minute, I never said that.
I'm kidding. But, if you guys think that we need to mix it up and have an evening session, or mix it up and have a morning session, next weekend I have a little more flexibility. I don't know about Kimberly. Evenings meetings.
Surprisingly, in COVID, I have 0 plans, so I'm good.
Okay.
Whatever you want me to do.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely, if you guys hear that these times aren't working, or somebody's only available at night, or somebody's only available in the morning, we'll toss a couple more out there. So we're not going to stop doing these every day, and we can add in a session here and there if we need to.
Yeah, the only reason we made them all at the same time was we figured not everybody, you're all going to have at least one day off in 7 at this time. And that way no one has to keep track of, on this day it's at 6 and tomorrow it's at 4 and so forth. But we can certainly add sessions if you think it would get more people to join.
We did get an email. Sorry, we were almost finished there.
Oh, Joanne has a question too.
Hang on one sec, Joanne. Let me ask this one and then we'll come over to you. Is there a means of clarifying to membership that the TA is not open to tweaks? Is there some way that we could clarify that the TA is not open to tweaks? The TA is voted on. It's a package. There's nothing we can do to change the TA now except to have a no vote. So we can try to figure out if there's a way to clarify that in something.
I think we could say it. It's not open to tweaks. Yes.
Did we cover off on it in the today's question of the day that's going to be posted today?
We can add to it. We have not. It's not in there.
Actually, why don't we do that? Because it's kind of about the voting. So let's do that. Let's stick it in there and put it out. Whoever brought that up, I don't have a name on this text, but thank you for that.
All right, Joanne?
Well, I'd just like to say that I forgot, I was busy at home today and forgot to get on, and Terry Balistrazi texted me and said, "You're not on?" ? And I just was like, oh, and so that's when I got on. So I'm going to encourage everyone to text your friends to get on this week and show a presence.
I think that is an amazing way that we can do this. And we need to also get to those junior flight attendants. I think we've had a couple. We have a couple today. If we can get to the new flight attendants and help them understand what this TA means, they may even have questions about what does it mean to be part of a union. They may have questions about what does a union do. I mean, there's this opportunity that we have right now to be together for 3 hours a day, potentially, is just an enormous opportunity to be able to touch so many people. So if you just look at your network, put it out to your network, and ask them to put it out to their network, this room will start to grow and we will continue to get this information to our members. I think that's invaluable. Judy?
That sounds like the virus and how it spread. But anyway, besides that, I think what for a lot of people that don't have the time, or for their own personal reasons, the inclination to do the type of research and listening and dissecting through all the information that's offered, this going back to what one of the email questions of understanding that if we vote this as a no and we go back to the table, the simple answer is we risk losing the advances that you've made. I don't think people get that it's not a question of going back to the table and saying, okay, well, we want this, this, and this, and the company's just going to fall over themselves to give it to us. We risk anytime we go, if I understand correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong, if we go back to the table, we risk the company saying, you know what, we don't think we're going to give you a 4.75 raise. We're going to go to 3. You know, they have that ability to go to create that environment where now we're just stuck with what we've got. And it just keeps going until, you know, there's a contract. But again, with the economic environment being what it is, we don't know how long that will last. So I think that some people don't understand in simple terms. And Lisa, you and I have talked on other subjects before, and I have sensed obviously the frustration when I explain that as someone who's new to contracts, someone who's new to our work environment, you who have been dealing with this for so many years, if you think back to your first time, you know, it was all new, it was all overwhelming. Just trying to make the information, trying to make people understand that emotions aside, the reality today is that if we vote no and it goes down and we go back to the table, the risk is greater that we'll lose more than we would gain more. Would that be accurate?
Well, I mean, again, you know, we're talking about things that we can't say for sure. We can't say for sure what would happen. But yes, we strongly believe that we would not be able to negotiate to the level that we have in this current TA if we were to go back to the table in a year when we were able to do that. Whenever that would be, that is correct. We would not be able to ensure flight attendants that we would get even this much, let alone more into it on top of this much. Hi, Terry, you came on with us.
And with the time frame in mind, you say, you know, at the end of the month, we'll know the results. With that, again, just helping to understand in simplistic terms. So the vote goes as a no. At what point in time or how long before the union goes back to the table?
Nothing is set in stone. There's no requirement, but I would be surprised if we were back in the table before September or October.
Okay.
I mean, Kimberly would have to tell me, I mean, September, October, they're still going to be dealing with their financial crises.
Right.
So I don't know what they would come back to the table with in September or October if they did, and how long they could draw that out and what our next, I mean, we could go over all those next steps again, but you're not looking at just sitting down in September or October conceivably and saying, how do you feel about these things? I mean, there's a new committee potentially that you have to train, that you have to even interview for if for some reason you're changing committee members. And then there is a survey that has to be done, and all the flight attendants have to provide feedback to the survey that we could work with.
So it's starting over again.
It's not starting over again from scratch, but it's starting over again from a timeline of you're really going back to the basics again and then building upon that and then getting them. I mean, I think in some respects they would sit down with us, but I don't know how far we would even get for the next 6 months-ish while they're still in this financial crisis.
Right.
So I don't.
And then if we didn't get anywhere, we would need to apply for mediation, and that takes a few months before we get our first mediation date, and then we're still starting over. So I would expect that if it is voted down, it will be a long process to come back with a new TA.
And I think that's where some people's thoughts are: vote it down, drag it out, keep what we've got, because nobody does know what the economic situation is going to be. Is it a year? Is it 2? Is it 3? You know, so, you know, again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here with, if it's voted no, is it going to be in the long run better for us because we may gain more in a year or 2 having dragged this out, or take what we've got and suck it up for 4 sort of thing? So, okay. Thank you.
Terry, did you want to say something? Or do you just want to come on video?
I like being able to see people. I want more people to come on video with us. I want to see faces.
Natasha has a question.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. To what Judy, I think was just talking, said, could anyone, I guess I could, but could someone do the math to explain how many dollars in lost wages flight attendants would lose if we had to wait 6 months or a year or 18 months or 2 years and so on in lost earnings before we negotiate a higher price? And even if they gave us an extra $1 an hour or $2 an hour, at what point does that never make sense?
We can, yes and no. I mean, obviously we can do that math based on.
I just feel like some people need to see it to be like,
Yeah.
oh darn, because exponentially math is, it adds up.
Well, we can definitely do it on a, like, you know, some random 5-year flight attendant or 6-year flight attendant or whatever, which would give some examples. It's a little tricky though, because we have no idea how many people are going to be on leave. So it would be hard to do it for the whole work group, but we could definitely do it for.
What about just a little thing that says, okay, this is how much the average worker works.
Right.
Times that by, and so this is the 6-month average, and then just put in your own salary, or I guess that would be the difference. So that's the tricky thing. But and this is how much you stand to not gain.
Right. Lisa, can you put that down for a question of the day? Can you make a note?
I can make that happen. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Natasha. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and then I just have one other thing about kind of what Joanne was asking for, which is hard to do, to like go into the contract and kind of explain what we're going to lose. You know, it's how it's kind of the opposite of what's in the TA. And like one thing in support of that would be, there's that line that says, no loss for dropping a deadhead.
Right.
Okay. Most of us don't know even how we get paid. They don't understand it. They just get a paycheck, and it's hard to reconcile that, etc. And someone posted the other day on the AFA page that she was looking to pick up a trip. It was a 4-day valued at 19.5 credits. And the first leg is a deadhead to LA with a 48-hour overnight.
Okay, that's not normal in normal times, but
no,
okay.
Even if it was a 34-hour overnight or a 24-hour overnight, you know, like a day off, first leg, or last day, pardon me, deadhead. And a lot of people commute. A lot of people are happy to fly. If it's the first leg or last leg is a deadhead, they're happy to maybe get there at a different time, whether it's earlier or later, or they drive to that destination. So they might want to drop a deadhead, especially in the climate. Deadheads are all over our schedules, everywhere. What if you're in Portland and all you have to do is deadhead to Seattle? You might want to go earlier. This person who's looking to pick up a 4-day, 19-credit trip, if she called scheduling and said, hey, I'm in LA, I'd like to drop this, and she's there on day 1, she would lose 11.5 credits, and we would be paid 8 credits for doing the exact same trip just because she chose to get there herself. True. And
I mean, I'm assuming I'm taking your numbers on what the trip rig would be. So okay.
Yeah, so she would just go back to 8 credits, 4 minutes.
Okay.
And so a huge loss. And so I think if people aren't factoring those type of gains in, that's a lot of money that you would have in their new contract, you would get paid.
Right.
Like if you did this twice a year, and it was maybe you only lost 4 credits in the current contract, and the new contract you would get 8 credits. If you did 2 drops of the deadhead a year, maybe it's not something that applies to you very much. You don't commute or whatnot. You know, that could be $200 to $500 extra dollars a year. So when you're thinking of like, oh, the bonus isn't enough, maybe just there's pay where if you just read the line, no loss of pay for a deadhead, you wouldn't be able to quantify what that meant to the average flight attendant.
Right.
So that is it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Natasha. Kirk and Joelle, maybe if they see that, or one of the other officers, if they see that that trail, and Facebook might be able to post something in there, or one of the committee members will see if someone can at least try to answer little things like that. Joanne?
Well, I was just, listening to Natasha about that deadhead thing. One of the things we have we stand to lose, and I just can't help but go over the things that everybody stands to lose. Like, the company could, with an open contract, if we vote no, the company could come in and change our sick time to 8 days, and they could increase our insurance premiums to a significant amount, and now we have a cap on it with this contract yes vote. They can look for ways to save money in these economic times and choose different hotels, and we don't have anything to guarantee us in our current contract that they will stick with our standards. That is locked in with a yes vote with the new contract. We are opening ourselves up with an open contract to so many changes that the company can make because they're trying to save money in this economic time. So those are really grave things that we stand to lose.
Right. Yeah.
Natasha has another question.
Great.
Hey, so it just went in line with what Joanne was saying about the sick time, and I know people are worried about that, and I feel like what I've read in the beginning with feeling like this COVID thing doesn't reflect how our sick calls need to be. And I feel like I remember from the past that reminding people that the company can always exceed the contract. If OSHA or the King County or places that we fly or all the health departments say, hey, you cannot penalize people for calling in sick if they have COVID-like symptoms, there can be other legal avenues that supersede the contract. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's right. Of course, Air Group, as we know, have been trying to say they're exempt from all those laws, but yeah, right now, and they're not giving you occurrences for right now, so that's something. But I mean, if you're out more than 3 days, you can go on FMLA anyway, and if you're out more than 14 days, you can go on a medical leave. So then there wouldn't be occurrences attached to that. But yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah, because I think people are like, if I'm sick at home with my family, I'm going to reach those days right away. And how does this serve me? We need this in the contract to be renegotiated. But I feel like even with the COVID situation, they're not going to change, like they're not going to give you more days or change their policy idea.
Well, I'm not talking about right now during COVID, that supersedes everything right now. But let's say this, we come out of this COVID thing and we still have not negotiated a contract because it's going to take a long time to negotiate the contract. Now we go back to our current, policy. I mean, we don't necessarily, I mean, they have the ability to change that policy again if we don't have a closed contract. And that's my point. It's not about the COVID thing that I'm worried about, Natasha. It's about post-COVID, but we'll still be without a contract and very open to, the company making changes again, negative changes again to our sick policy.
Yeah, and I was just adding to that, like I agree with what you're saying. And I felt like I was reading people were scared to add in a sick policy because they know that with new, heightened medical situation, they're going to have to call in sick more often. And they don't think that this in concrete sick policy they can follow. So they're like, I don't want it in there because it's not reasonable. But it's like what you're saying is it is reasonable, and it'd be better to have something than nothing in some people's minds.
Right. Whether or not it's reasonable, at least they can't make it worse. If they want to make it better, all they have to do is come to us and ask, and we would, of course, agree to make it better. But right now, they can make it better or worse on their own. And what are the odds they're going to make it better, right? They've never made it better. So
we've been able to really work really hard to get these things in play to protect during COVID-19. I mean, this has been This has been 16 hours a day of work to get the protections that we have for everybody. And we've benefited by having Alaska work with us with their MEC. I mean, we've put a lot of work into all of these protections. So I expect that we'll continue to get these things in place. There's still a few more on the list that we're going through to get into place. There's 2 more things that I'm going to be getting out to the MEC to approve and on our website. So, you know, right now during COVID, if we're just talking about COVID, we have been nonstop negotiating to get these protections in there. I mean, literally nonstop. And there are outside of COVID. So if you remove COVID from the equation and you look at the sick policy, the way that it would be in the ratified TA, you have a policy that cannot be deteriorated any less than that policy. And that policy that's in there, although it's not the 12 days from before, it is the current policy that we have been working under for the last 1.5 years, I believe, almost 2 years. And it's not the policy we had, but it is a strong policy and it does give us those protections. And people need to read that full section on leaves to see that there is a medical leave of absence that protects you. There's FEMLA that protects you. There's intermittent leave that protects you. For valid, significant medical issues, there is protection there. And although new hires do have a lowered immune system and they have to really struggle those first, few months and to that first year to get protection, there are still protections available for them in the contract. It is so essentially important to read the contract and understand the protections that you have within it, and to reach out if you have questions about it.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like a lot of people think, oh, there's a sick policy in the contract, the coronavirus protections won't apply, or the union won't keep fighting for them with side letters related to specific situations that are outside of our control. And so, I mean, that's still true, right? You guys will still keep working because, Gary Beck says, don't come to work when you're sick. And if there could be policies across Horizon that go in addition to our contract. I mean, right? In the future, if that was necessary?
I think we have, I don't even know how many things we have on our website right now that are in addition to the contract that are covering us during the COVID right now. So yes, if people think that all of a sudden it would revert to just 10 days in this COVID environment, absolutely, categorically no. That, I mean, Kirk and Joelle and I and the other officers would break the 6-foot social distancing to get in there and make sure that that is not what's happening. I mean, if we have been adamant about these protections for our flight attendants during this time frame, just nonstop adamant to get these protections for everyone, and that would not stop. There is absolutely no reason that would stop. If this continues, worsened, started again, something new happened, I mean, that's what we're here for. We're not just here, I mean, think about it, we're doing the contract and this at the same time. That's what we're here for. We are literally working from the time we get up until the time we go to bed to make sure that every single one of those things is covered off on. And I'm not saying that so you guys think, oh my gosh, they're working all day long. I mean, we are literally, Kimberly, Kurt, Joelle, myself, every one of us are working nonstop on these issues to get these letters signed, to get these ideas out there, to get masks. The reasons, I mean, we have masks because your union members and AFA International has been fighting for masks with the CDC since the moment this started. So that has been an ongoing fight. We have them now. We have the gloves. We have the sanitizer. We have the wipes. If you don't have those things, you're calling a duty officer to say you're not flying. If you're not on the right leave that we've put into place, you're calling us, telling us you're not on the right leave. And we're taking that up with management immediately. We've had 6 or 7 leaves switched to the correct leave to make sure that people are on the right leaves. We made sure that eventually that VQLOA, it is not getting abused. We do want pay for that leave. We're getting pay for that leave. We have it now. So there are so many things that have been going on in the background, and we're pushing the communications out, but of course, not 24/7 can I push communications out, or can Kirk, or can Joelle, or any of us. But the only reason that those things are in play are because we have been fighting on those every single day to get those protections out there. And I sound kind of on a
no, it's amazing.
I sound on a rampage right now. I'm sorry, but it's
great. And I feel like some people think that will go away because the new sick policy will take effect, and they want to vote no because of that.
Over my dead body.
So I just think they just don't understand that it's not this or that. It's things can change, and there's side letters, and there's a fight going on almost all the time that's outside of the contract that it is parallel to it. It's with it. It doesn't mean it's not just the contract.
It's my dead body, by the way. It's Kirk's dead body, Joelle's dead body, Kimberly's dead body. It's all of our. You'd have to walk over all of us to get to that end result. And you're correct, Natasha. I think people see one piece of something and they don't know how that plays out. And we're not always the best at, I think we're doing a great job at getting information out there, but sometimes we're not the best at tuning what we've done. I know myself, I am so busy working every day that I don't think to jump out there and say, here's what your MEC has been able to achieve today. And I'm trying to do those updates and say, here's a list of all the things we've worked on. And I'm trying to do a president's report for Kirk's council meeting on Monday. And there's so many things that we need to get information out that sometimes it's overwhelming right now with all of this. But truly, that will not stop. Natasha, that will not stop for even 5 seconds that you have these officers in place right now. Not even 5 seconds of hesitation.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. We have Joanne and Judy have their hands up. All right. Joanne, you're off mute. Why don't you go?
So I think based on what Natasha just said, there may be some people that actually think that about the sick policy changing to 10 and during COVID. So perhaps that should be one of those questions of the day thing, to make sure that people understand that is not going to change.
Okay.
I'll send another COVID.
Judy?
Just on the COVID, and it's not contractual, so I apologize for getting off subject, but with the 6-foot rule and each state having different rules, and Lisa, I touched on it with you, because of the consolidation of our flights, we had gone from sort of 2 people and 10 people, and someone had just posted on Facebook, there were like 60 people on a flight. And so social distancing is just not possible. And again, I do know that flight attendant or flight attendants have the right to say, I don't feel safe, I'm not going to do this flight, call a duty officer. But
yes,
at a time appreciating the company needs to make money so they can keep us employed. What is the company doing as far as helping us? I mean, it seems a contradiction. So, social distancing, 6 feet, but you've got all the non-revs in the back of the airplane sitting near each other. You've got people in row after row after row, trying to leave the aisle seats open. I mean, in my experience, and I'm sure Joanne's and a few others that are on here, we just do what we're going to do. We're going to move those people for it to be socially comfortable. But my heart goes out to the newer people who don't know you are empowered to move them. I mean, on the 400, we know about weight and balance, and we know sort of what rows we can move people. But there are a slew of new people that don't know they can do that or how to do it. So I don't know that there's anything the union can do to help them.
I think it's just those of us that are out flying and able to get the word out. That's what your base reps are for. That's what your local presidents are for. That's what your local officers can help you with, is to get that information out.
And what about the CSAs who allow these people to come down to the plane with those, you know, with our IMDs, we see where they're sitting, and CSAs know.
Shelly's working on getting more communications out to the boarding agents on how to do that. But as you know, information gets put out to us before there's a policy that's written for them. And so, I mean, this is unprecedented times with information just coming out back to back to back to back to back. So they're supposed to be getting these things more clarified for the gate agents and getting the policy more defined for everybody. But we're going to be at a point, if we draw down the flying enough, we're going to be at a point where we are at capacity on some of these flights. And that's where it is really important to be using the equipment that you have to protect yourself. And if you know that's not a safe environment for yourself, that you remove yourself from that flight. But with the gloves and the mask and the sanitizers and the washing aids and all of those things that we have now, there should be the ability to do these things. They're going to start a marketing PA, hopefully, that'll be used in the ramp, and even go out to passengers beforehand to bring their masks, bring their gloves with them, bring their items so that they're protected as well. So it is, I mean, it's unprecedented how quickly all of this is changing and developing and the things that we're fighting for. So I think getting the information out as much as you guys can, as well as having them reach out to all of their local officers and other people, is the best way to get it to them. But the duty,
I think having that service with the, 350 miles. I mean, for me personally, if I've got a full cabin, I'm not doing a service. I'm staying in the galley or up front. I'm not going out there. The 400, which is what we predominantly fly out of Medford, those flights are short enough. Our longest right now is Seattle to Medford. If they can't do without a water, or what I have done is taken the tray, hold it in my hand, and as they enter, let them grab from that if they want. But I mean, again, I feel bad for the new people who, follow policy, follow policy, follow policy, service. It's like, yeah, no. Safety first, and it's primarily yours. Being out there in the consolidated aircraft with 60, 70 people, it isn't safe. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter how much you cover yourself. It takes someone to sneeze on your sweater or on your arm as you're passing them their bottled water.
If you need to stay seated for your safety, you need to stay seated and do a report.
Yeah.
It's about empowering yourself within our parameters of being safe. It's fully supported for you to take the measures that you need to take to be safe.
And it's helping the new ones understand that they can do that.
Yeah.
Without repercussion.
Yeah.
Even if they're on probation.
Yeah, that COVID-19 letter for leaves absolutely protects every single flight attendant, no matter what your time is. And equally, this provision, if that's an unsafe flight for you to be on or your passengers to be on for whatever reason, you have that protection. All right, so let's, Joanne, you had a question?
Yes, so if I remove myself from a flight because there's too many people on it and I don't feel safe, they're gonna put a reserve on there, right? I have a hard time with that. I don't think I could do that to a reserve. I know that, we had to come up with something to protect ourselves, but that's not what should happen there. It should be half of the passengers should be removed or whatever it takes to make that flight more safe, not somebody that doesn't have the guts to stand up for themselves to come take my place.
Well, there are people who are willing to wear the personal protective gear and take the flight. So we do have flight attendants that are empowered and have all the tools and feel able to take those flights, even when they are more full than we want to see them right now. So the thankfully, numbers are starting to level some. Doesn't mean that there aren't still people as carriers, but we are starting to get more messages out to the members to our guests, that they need to bring the masks themselves, bring gloves themselves. So we're working towards all of that. We're also making sure that they do book those flights the way that they should be more and more each time. So as you know, if a flight doesn't go, a flight doesn't go. If everyone is uncomfortable stepping onto that aircraft in the environment that's in there, then that's, unfortunately, that's the position that they would have to be in. They would have to come off of it and not fly that leg. And that could mean that flight potentially may not lead that for that flight. They may take people off, they may not. I don't know what their final decision on that would be, but we're still talking about those flights in our every other day call. So they're still being discussed on a regular basis to make sure that we're really sticking to that. But I expect we're going to see the 65%. And we will see more than that on these flights that there's only one, or it's a heavy market and there's only 4. So I think we're going to keep seeing that. And there will be a time where we have our flights back and we're full again. I mean, we have to be prepared for that too. We want to be back flying again. We want to be back flying again. We just want to be back flying again safely with all of our personal protective equipment with us. That's what we want. Joanne, you look like you're dancing.
She does. I think she's figuring out her green screen.
We kind of went sideways there with some current stuff, but I think that's good. I think it's a good conversation to have. The more information that's out there, the better. And
all right. Well, is it time to end this party, guys? We'll have another party tomorrow.
I want to say thank you to everyone that turned their videos on. I really do. I want to say thanks to that. That was just a really nice touch. I like being able to see everyone. So all of you that turned your videos on, thank you very much.
She doesn't give me advice, by the way.
You've been on video every day.
I hate it.
Do you guys want to say something before we close? Do you want to talk for just a second? Recap anything?
Me?
Kirk and Joelle.
Oh, okay.
I want to give Joelle a chance to just kind of say some final thoughts.
Well, thanks again for all your participation. We appreciate you guys taking the time to do this.
And I've spent hours trying to figure out how to get my video to work, and no luck yet. And I can't get a technician to come here.
It'll be the last day.
It will. But no, I really appreciate everyone's participation, taking their own personal time to get their questions answered and get educated on some of these talking points. Thank you. And we will have a local meeting tomorrow for Council 17, Medford and Portland, starting at 10 a.m. I'll get the login and passcode sent out shortly here.
Excellent.
Within minutes. Thank you.
Right.
Well, thanks, you guys. Yeah.
Thanks. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thank you.